Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are in the world, welcome back to season 19 of The Caring Economy with me, your host, Toby Usnik. This is where we explore the introduction of purpose-driven leadership and economic innovation. Today, I'm really honored to have as our guest Commissioner Hester M. Peirce of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC. She was appointed by President Donald Trump in 2018 as a commissioner, and then in 2025 was appointed to run a task force on cryptocurrency. She is known as the crypto mom, which I think is fantastic. I can't wait to talk a little bit about it, for her advocacy of the clear regulatory frameworks for blockchain technology. Commissioner Peirce brings a wealth of experience from her time at the Mercatus Center, the U.S. Senate on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, and her earlier roles within the SEC itself. With degrees in economics from Case Western Reserve University in Ohio, my home state, and a JD from Yale Law School, she has dedicated her career to fostering innovation while ensuring investor protection. Today, we're going to delve into her leadership on the SEC's Crypto Task Force, her vision for balancing innovation with regulation, and just how her work impacts the broader economy. So, Commissioner Peirce, welcome to the Caring Economy.
Toby, thanks for having me. It's great to be here, especially with a fellow Ohioan.
Go Buckeyes.
Go Buckeyes. I do have to give my disclaimer, which is that my views are my own views as a commissioner, not necessarily those of the SEC or my fellow commissioners.
That's a great opener, Commissioner, because what I have noticed in preparing for this interview, in every public way, in every occasion I've interacted with you, just today, even on X, you're so transparent, you disclose these things, and you welcome people to follow you, come to these sessions, learn more. So I want to commend you for leading by example in that, because it really helps demystify, I think.
Well, I have to say it's very helpful to me because I'm able to get input from lots of different people. And so people have been very generous with their time with me. So I'm very grateful for that.
And I'm grateful for your time. So let's jump into it. I'd love to hear. We have the Ohio connection. I wonder if you could give us maybe a digest of 3 to 4 minutes of your life, where you're born, how you were raised, how you found your passion or your way, maybe some pivots or mentors along the way.
Yeah, well, I'm a Cleveland native. I grew up there, and neither of my parents were from Ohio, but both of them loved it a lot. So I consider that still to be home. And I ended up studying economics in college, and that really was, for me, transformative in the way that I looked at the world. Understanding, you can understand so much when you just apply basic economic principles. So that was something that I had thought about going on to study, but ended up in law school anyway. Instead of going to get an econ PhD, I just went to law school, which is better for someone who's not great at math. And so wanted to have some way to marry those two, economics and law. And so securities law was a good home for me to land in. And that's where I did land and found my way to the SEC as a very young junior lawyer, and really got the chance to learn about how not only the securities markets work, but also how regulation works. And regulation is, you can have a great idea, but putting that into a rule actually is more difficult than you would think. So learning how that worked was very important for me. And so I had a chance then to go and work in Congress, as you mentioned. There I had the chance to think about, how does Congress come up with the mandates for regulators to implement? And that also is quite difficult, because you're trying to give a mandate that is cabined enough that you're not granting overly broad authority, but you're also trying to give the agency room to work as conditions change. And so that was a really valuable experience, especially since I was there during the financial crisis and in the aftermath. And so you get a sense of the consequences of bad regulation, of bad regulatory decisions. You really learn humility, because a regulation can tell people to do things. And if everyone's doing that same thing that's required by the regulation, and it's the wrong thing, it will have very dire consequences for the financial system. And then I went, so as I said, thinking about how to do regulation effectively is something that I've been thinking of for a long time in my career. So I went to work with folks at a research center who worked a lot on regulation. A lot of those were economists, to try to learn more about how to do regulation well. And then I got the opportunity to come back to the SEC as a commissioner, and really thought it would be fun to have a hand in making policy, which it has been fun, of course, very challenging. And so I've had a good time here, and I've learned a lot. I feel like there's still a lot of work I'd like to get done, but it's been a very interesting journey.
And is the crypto aspect of it become a passion for you, or is that you were asked to do it, so you stepped up to do it, or how does that fit into the larger work you've done with the SEC?
Yeah, so what happened is when I got here in 2018, there were sort of the first glimmers of the interaction of the SEC with the crypto world. And there were a lot of questions about how the securities laws applied. And there were a lot of questions about what we needed to do as an agency to think about how the laws applied, and to help people on the outside think about that. And I took it as an opportunity to think not just about crypto, but more generally about how the agency interacts with innovation. And so, regardless of what you think about crypto, and whether you think that this particular innovation will be meaningful in our lives, the agency has a responsibility to interact responsibly with innovators, to give them the opportunity to make their products and services available to the American people. And so that was really how I approached it. I knew from my time here before at the commission as a staffer that it can be very easy for an agency to get comfortable with the incumbent providers of services and with the incumbent products, and not to create an avenue for new competitors to come into the industry, and for new products and services to come in. Because if something goes wrong with one of those new competitors or one of those new products, you will get blamed as a regulator. Why didn't you say no? But if you just say no, it's less likely that people will see there's a cost to that.
Mhm.
And so crypto presented an interesting example of that interaction with innovation. And people were saying, wait a minute, I see stuff happening outside the US. Why isn't it happening inside the US? And the answer was really regulation. And so that piqued my interest. I think there are some really interesting aspects of crypto, in the sense that the underlying technology enables value to move across the internet in the same way that data could move across the internet. And that was revolutionary. It also enables people who don't know one another to coordinate their activities with one another. And I think that's a fascinating development too. But as a regulator, I don't try to decide whether a particular technology is going to change the way things are done. I really just want to give people the opportunity, who are the technologists, who are the people developing and building, give them the opportunity to show people what the technology can do. And if people find that to be compelling, they'll start using those products and services. If not, they won't. And that's the market should be able to make that decision.
I think I mean, based on what you shared, if I understand correctly, I love that you want to focus on the role of the SEC writ large in regulation, which you've been doing all along, is looking at regulation. And Bitcoin, or crypto, just happens to be a really great case study, my words, not yours, at a really important time, because we are in an inflection point, I think. And so it makes sense you would be there, and that you're always thinking broadly, but also more tactically. So here's a tough question then. Can you, for our listeners who aren't familiar with crypto, can you give us like a quick primer? I know it's a complex thing. We don't want to make it seem too simple, but how do you talk to lay people about crypto? Or do you? I don't know, do you talk
I
to
think,
specialists, or do you talk to lay people?
I talk to lots of people. And I mean, I think that that's a really important question, because the term crypto can mean a lot of different things. As I said, the underlying technology, cryptography, allows you to transfer money to someone else virtually over the internet, right? But to do so in a way that you as the recipient know that the sender didn't also send that same money to 10 different people. And that's because there's a blockchain, and you can actually, it's public, it's open, people can see that you're not double spending. And so that in itself can be really can change the way people do lots of things, right? It can change the way people send money across borders. It can give people the ability to make small payments, micropayments for things. So there are a lot of potential applications for that. You've seen people create stable coins, which are based on dollars so that they can easily transfer dollars. And so there's that piece of it. But you can also do other things with it. You can build networks, and the token is a crypto asset on that network. It enables you to do all kinds of things where you want to coordinate people's activities. So, you could use it to build a social network. You can use it to build a network where different people are storing data or building a sort of cell phone sharing cell networks. So there are a lot of different potential uses of it. And I always recommend that when you want to go learn about it, you don't go to a regulator, but you tune in to some of the people who are actually building in this area.
Love your honesty again. Ladies and gentlemen, again today on the Caring Economy, we're really happy to have with us Commissioner Hester Peirce. She is an SEC commissioner, and she is running the crypto task force there. She also is known as the crypto mom. So can you give us a little background on that? How did you get that nickname, and are you comfortable with it? Do you embrace it?
Well, so the name came pretty early on in my tenure when I wrote a dissent. One of the things people are trying to do is so there are these crypto assets out there, and they're trying to figure out a way to give people access to those through a regulated product of the SEC. We have exchange traded products. And so people have created exchange traded products that are based on Bitcoin and based on Ether, one of the other crypto assets that's out there. And so we said no to those for a long time. And I put out a dissent saying I thought we should say yes. And so I got the name Crypto Mom. And I will say that I think it's really important for people to understand the role of the SEC. And the role of the SEC is not maternal or paternal. It's quite the opposite. It actually is, our mission is to get people information so that they can make their own decisions. They can make decisions for their own lives based on their own knowledge of their own plans for the future, their own limitations in terms of what does the rest of their portfolio look like? What might their immediate needs be for money? If you're planning to buy a house, you'll choose to put your money in one place versus if you have money that you're sitting on for a long time and expect to be sitting on for a long time, you might put it in some other place. And so what our goal is to make sure there's good disclosure so people can make good decisions, but not to make those decisions for them. So I think the term crypto mom is funny, and that's fine.
It's memorable.
But I really want people to, I want people to focus on the fact that nobody is making those decisions for you. You have to take charge of your financial life. That may include going and finding a financial professional who can help you make good decisions. You should always check that professional out. We have databases where you can go to check out a financial professional before you start to work with the person. And so I think just don't assume that because a product is trading on our markets, it means that we at the SEC have signed off on it. That is not our function.
I liked your honesty again that, don't come to the SEC for all these questions, but some of them maybe. Where else besides that database you just suggested, are there particular, like maybe your former foundation that you'd worked for?
Well, you can go to investor.gov, which is a website that we have for investors. It has a lot of information there about lots of different things. And so I do recommend that to people, and you'll find really valuable resources about a whole number of things. If you do have a question or you have concern about a bad actor that you've seen, you can report that to us. You can call in. There are numbers and email addresses that you can find there as well. So that's what I would recommend that people start out with. And, there are many other resources that are out there in the private sector as well that you can take advantage of. But I think one important point to remember too is when you're sitting down to make investment decisions, you can take your time to make those decisions. If someone is coming to you whether it's with a crypto product or any other product, and saying you have to make your decision today, otherwise this opportunity is going to go away, you should be very skeptical. There will always be something else you can invest in, and you should not feel pushed to do things. I think sometimes with financial things, when people are trying to take advantage of you, they try to suggest to you that you just rely on them and that you don't have to do any work of your own. And that's not true. You can do your own work, take your own time to get comfortable. There are a lot of different options to fit different risk profiles that people have. And you should feel confident enough to say no, or if someone's not answering the questions that you have, and you should feel free to ask questions. Again, that's not a good sign. If people don't want to take the time to answer your questions, you can go somewhere else.
Well, it sounds like common sense, but it sounds even more important when it comes from a commissioner from the SEC. So thank you for reminding us of that. I wonder if you could tell us, Commissioner, where you're seeing the biggest growth or embracing of crypto in, maybe let's just say in the US for now. You've not acknowledged already how much is happening in other places, but what sort of do you see as good harbingers, perhaps?
Well, I think one thing that we've seen already in the first few months of taking a different approach and a more open approach to really engaging with people who are trying to build things in the crypto space, we've seen a lot of interest in thinking about how our rules apply, and even interest from traditional financial market participants who might want to tokenize something like just a traditional security, but take it and tokenize it. Again, we'll see how that takes hold and whether that takes hold, but I think there will be more experimentation of just taking traditional assets and putting them on chain, so-called, putting it on chain, or taking other real world assets and tokenizing them. But, again, we're open to lots of things. So we're also open to people who are building native blockchain, native crypto assets, and trying to figure out how to do that in a way that's compliant. For some of those things, they're probably not within the SEC's jurisdiction. And so we're trying to provide some guidance there as well, if things aren't within our jurisdiction. And so it'll be interesting to watch what happens with the things outside of our jurisdiction. But I expect that a lot of the SEC's time will be spent on working with people who are in our markets and seeing, is there a way for this technology to make those markets operate more efficiently? Is there a way for transactions to happen, to settle more quickly using this technology? And so it'll take some time to see how that takes hold.
Yeah. Well, I know, shout out to my friend David Jensen, who introduced me to you. He's heard you speak at the Harvard Club and was very impressed. He's very involved in crypto and very bullish on it. And I'm glad that he made the introduction, because as you're suggesting, you're changing the willingness to not experiment, but you want to just make this, you don't want to miss the opportunities that this newish technology can offer. So I know that people invested in it are really welcoming this change in perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it is really experimentation, because sometimes you have a great idea and you think blockchain or crypto assets can solve this, and you want to try that. And some of those will take hold and will actually change the way things are done. And others probably won't take hold, but we have to at least allow the opportunity for people to try it.
Yeah. I saw a great news article you did. I think you spoke to, or went to Congress 3 weeks ago or so, and you set it up very nicely, the different things that the pillars that you're suggesting. But how's it going? I mean, are you well received? Is it split
We're
down
getting
party
lots
lines?
of great feedback.
Good.
We put out a lot of requests. I asked 50 or so questions. People have been writing in and answering those questions. And we're also having lots of meetings with people, and we're having some public roundtables, which we've done 3, but we've got 2 more to go. And we invite people to tune in for those, or come in person if you want. And it's been very helpful in thinking through these things. Of course, Congress is working on developing legislation. One thing that we emphasize is that we're not trying to get everything with SEC's jurisdiction. I think there are uses for the technology, as I said, within our jurisdiction. There are other pieces of this that will probably be at the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. And then yet other pieces will probably be non-financial. And, people disagree on how much of it will be non-financial, but that means that it won't be within the SEC or the CFTC's jurisdiction, but will be outside of that jurisdiction. So there are a lot of different places to watch, and there'll be some places that we have a hand in shaping and others that we will carve out of our jurisdiction explicitly and say, as when we look at the law, we just don't see jurisdiction for the SEC. And then those things will develop under other regulatory frameworks.
So I'm mindful of your time. Just two more questions. As you look globally, how do you interact with other nations? Was it El Salvador that was the first country to go crypto for their national currency or something?
Yeah, well, so El Salvador did adopt Bitcoin as a method of an official method of payment. I think maybe some other countries have done a similar thing. But more generally, it's interesting to watch how other jurisdictions have dealt with a regulatory challenge of integrating crypto. You have the European Union, which came out pretty early with a comprehensive regulatory framework. You have other jurisdictions in Asia that have come up with regulatory frameworks or have been very encouraging of experimentation. And so we have lessons that we can learn from different places, just watching what they've done. The UK has been thinking about ways that they can work with entrepreneurs in this space. So a piece of it is just looking at what other jurisdictions have done, picking and choosing, figuring out which pieces would work here. Another piece of it is because, like many things we regulate, this crosses borders, thinking about how we can make that border crossing as seamless as possible. And we have tools that we can use, or Congress can build some of those tools into the legislation. So that's a piece of it as well. And then, of course, cooperating on the enforcement front. When we see bad conduct, we can cooperate there as well. We have very established avenues for working with our fellow regulators on a multilateral basis and also bilaterally. And so we really just need to turn those on for this area as well. And that's what we've been doing. But I think a lot of people are looking to the US and saying, we want to see what the US does. They're used to the US taking more of a leadership role and trying to figure out how to grapple with some of these difficult regulatory problems. So I hope that some of the work we're doing now can really set a good precedent for what other countries and jurisdictions might try.
I mean, you're a very inspiring leader to help in that cause, because I think a lot of Americans just think, I don't understand it. I think it's North Koreans and drug runners and sex traffickers. And I understand why people are fearful of any new technology, AI and other things, but how do you help people put that in context, I guess, when you're speaking again to a layperson?
Yeah, and I mean, people do bad things, and people use whatever technology is available to do the bad things they want to do. And so we do need to think about using tools that we have, finding new tools to combat bad uses of things. There are some aspects of the technology that make it easier to identify bad actors. There's some aspects that are going to make it more challenging. And so we have to be thinking about that aspect as well. But it would be a shame if we looked at any technology, saw someone using it for a bad thing, and said, we're not going to let anyone use that technology at all.
I agree.
And I think it can also, especially in the United States, where we really do prize the ability of individuals to manage their own lives and to do so in a way that's not under constant surveillance by the government. We have to, whatever framework we build, whatever regulatory framework we build, has to respect that, the privacy and freedom loving aspect of, that sort of sets the basis for this country. And so that can be a hard balance, and we can have that debate, but we really have to have that debate. We shouldn't just rush to say you can't use a new technology. I mean, you mentioned AI, right? AI can have some you can build out some dystopian futures that don't look so good, but you can also see some ways in which it can really make people's lives better. You can
Absolutely.
see some ways in which it's abused. We worry about how people are using it to scam people in the financial industry, but we also see ways in which it can help make people who provide financial services able to provide those services to more people at lower cost than what they'd otherwise be able to. So we want to balance the
Yeah.
ability of people to use these things and also our ability to go after bad conduct.
Absolutely. And education is a big part of that too. And the technologies
Yes.
can, and organizations like yours can help with that. I'm very appreciative of your time. My last question is the one I ask everyone, which is pearls of wisdom that you've gleaned in your career. You strike me as someone who's really been almost on mission. You're living a purpose-driven life, a purpose-driven career. And I wonder along the way, are there any particular lessons learned that you would give to your young self or to anyone older or just any mantra-like sayings you have that your colleagues say, "Oh yeah, that's the commissioner."
Well, I don't know that I've had a purpose-driven career. I think I've been a lot, you know, maybe less focused than I should have been in some ways. But what I will say is that you can learn something from anyone you interact with, and that really does affect my regulatory philosophy. I think regulators need to be regulating in a way that maximizes the ability of people to use their own experiences and intelligence to make decisions. But it also is just, for me, it's been one of the most wonderful parts of this job, which is a lot of people are willing to talk to me, and I can learn something from everyone I interact with, and it can help me do my job better. And I think that's that sense of wonder at just the richness of the experience of our fellow Americans, our fellow humans, and the fact that they're willing to share some of that experience with you. Take advantage of that all across your career, learn from other people, and you know that you'll never know it all, so that you've always got lots to learn, and that keeps life interesting.
Well, that is the spirit of this podcast. We try to be open to different kinds of folks and learn from them and collaborate. So I want to thank you again, Commissioner Peirce, for joining us today. It's been great. We haven't touched on Ohio. We'll come back to that another time, but you're inspiring. I feel like we've got a good person at the wheel. And again, Commissioner Peirce, she's an SEC commissioner, and she is leading the SEC's crypto task force. A great organization to go for to learn research, but also do your own research and find out more about crypto and be in touch with your comments. Thank you again, Commissioner.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been fun.